Jeremy, guess what?
What?
Exciting news for our listeners. We've hit another milestone, and I think it's even going to lend us a little credibility. Did you hear about what we're going to be able to offer soon?
I did not.
By listening to Unaccountable going forward, our listeners are going to be able to earn CPE for every episode of Unaccountable they digest. Yes, digest because it takes a whole lot of stomach acid and or heartburn to get through this. But log into that Earmark CPE app, take a quiz, and you can earn 1 hour of CPE credit for listening. How awesome is that?
Fantastic. Look at us. We talked about at the end of one of the episodes, we may be doing some good things here.
Fantastic work. Well, hop on into that app and let us know what you think of our show. Welcome to Unaccountable, the world's okay-est accounting game show podcast for product news, updates, and education. I am your pot stirrer of a host, Tyler Otto, and I'm joined by the stir-crazy co-host, Jeremy Van Groll, up there in cold Wisconsin. How do you do it?
Oh, I don't know. It's taxing, man. I can't wait till I get to the point where get my kids out the door and I'm snowbirding somehow, some way, all the time. And I love them to death, but I hate the cold. Yeah.
I used to mock people that were snowbirds that like, come on, you're that lazy, you can't handle a winter here, like, how dare you? And I'm only in my mid-30s now, and I'm like, nope, I get it. I totally see the appeal.
Yep, 100%.
That could very well be me when my youngest goes to college.
Right? And so that's why I'm stir crazy up here in the cold. And before we get to your pot stirring, let's just put out this for the audience is it's definitely a sit down kind of energy today. We are taping this on the 23rd of December. We are in the thick of holidays things and getting everything done for the year so you can unplug a little bit. Tyler, I know you're going through and finishing some courses yet too for your CPA. There is a lot going on. So if we're not peppy, Jeremy and Tyler, the whole show here, please give us a little bit of grace. You know, we always have to be on all the time, right?
Way to sell the energy down early on, right? Like, man, just put those expectations low. No, I'm excited today because we got some interesting stuff. You and I both agreed that we should talk about, and I think it very much goes in line with building a firm and growing this year. But before we get into that, I feel like we got to hit a few things that happen in the news. And Jeremy, to kick us off, this one, you know, you and I have already had a little back and forth on this, so I imagine you know the answer when I ask it. But Intuit just recently announced that coming up here in a few months, they are going to be sunsetting what feature of QuickBooks Online?
The tag feature. And I got to be careful. In Wisconsin, we say tag. So the tag feature, as my wife always gives me a hard time with my long A's where they should not be.
And Jeremy, as someone who, you know, you and I actually first met a long time ago, and you even hired me when I was young little nobody to help you with a conversion of a client from an old school desktop accounting system. And even at the time, you were like, ooh, we need to have the tags. We need the tags. We need the tags turned on. How does this impact your firm going forward?
So, yeah, you asked me that, and I was like, no, I think we're good. Because I've honestly hated the tag function overall because I just don't feel like it gives enough clarity. And it's per posting, not per line item, like location. And, like, I really like getting down to that line item of detail when we're doing, like, project tracking or grant tracking and things like that. So I was like, I think this is kind of a non-issue. The couple times I've asked people to use this is, like, if they do a lot of fundraising activities and there's a specific one that they're having that they don't think is repeatable. So I don't want to make a separate class for it and track that, but just like, hey, let's throw a tag out there and let's just find a way to track that kind of half-assed for no other reason, right? But then this came out there and I put it to my team and they're like, 2 or 3 of them said, oh no, I've been telling our clients to use that for this specific thing to give me more information. And it's like, oh, okay. So maybe going to have a little more impact than what I thought. How about you?
I mean, it's going to have no impact on us because for me, everything, if it's not available via the API, I don't want to use it. I want to be able to manipulate it, adjust it in other programs. We had Tom and Jesse on here a few weeks ago, and that was their big complaint, right? Jesse was like, please make tags available. Yeah, I'm going to lean into this tags. You know, they were like, please make it available to us. And I think this is all right on the back of them releasing QuickBooks Enterprise Solutions because they are releasing now 20, as we talked about with Tom and Jesse, 20 new fields for people on that program, much like classes. Well, my imagination, and this is purely me speculating, but I would believe they looked at the functionality of tags and like, okay, this can be accomplished now probably with more locations, with more of these other dimensions they're releasing. And so in that regard, kill this functionality that's never been in the API, that's never been fully flushed out. And what's interesting is they just say they're not being supported after March 8th. Does that mean they'll still be there, but they don't promise how long it's going to work? Does that mean they'll still be there retroactively, but you can't use them going forward on transaction? I don't know. And March 8th, what a weird day to pick. But all that being said, I have a feeling quite a few firms, this is going to mess with them a little bit.
Right. And like a voluptuous female in a marathon, support is important, right? Like, anyway, yeah, and you beat me to it with the enterprise thing, but totally like, hey, we have this new option out there, right? That's going to cost you $20,000. Let's take away this thing you're using now that's working, that's built into your $100 whatever a month, right? So I feel like it's a money grab to some level, yeah.
So all that being said, they have announced to everyone that with tags going away, they are going to open up at least one new dimension, one new class field, depending on the tier you're on, or even more if you're on higher tiers and paying for it. So they're going to release some other options. But I mean, the beauty of tags is that you could, apply multiple of them across different things. You didn't need to have separate dimensions for each category, or you could have multiple selects within an option. Well, currently their class system only allows single select. So it definitely raises some issues. Interesting to see what happens. I don't know. Death Stars just keeps wanting people to hate them, I guess.
Yeah, I again, not great feedback overall received thus far, right?
Nope. Also in the news, Jeremy, I don't know if you saw this, and I'm not sure if it'll have any impact, but Dext, formerly known as Receipt Bank, the receipt capture, image capture, document capture, whatever platform that we used to know and love, has announced they are getting acquired by the Iris Software Group. And part of it makes me wonder, like, how is this going to get used? Rarely have we ever seen acquisitions of softwares not result in some sort of change, whether it's now an underlying piece of tech that gets wrapped into a much larger solution, or, HubDoc got acquired by Xero and became Xero's best friend, or, QuickBooks bought DataDeer and then destroyed its integration with everyone else. Well, Iris isn't a GL, but are they going to wrap it into some other technology? Like, I can't imagine they just saw, oh, we want to buy this software and then do nothing with it. I'm curious if this is going to have impact downstreams for everyone that uses it for their receipt capture.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar with Iris. So they said they have their own GL platform?
No, that's not what I said.
Oh, dang it. I never listened. I was trying to think, I was trying to look this one up and say, that's my concern, right? Even without whatever they have now, what speciality, what makes them different that they think they can take this tool, acquire it, make it better, make it profitable, and all of that stuff. What knowledge do they have? And what other things are they into that they can support this? Do they have other softwares that are well received and out there? Or is this kind of like a one-off venture capitalist saying hey, we're going to take this and we're going to want to raise gross margins 25%. So let's increase the price and dial in, maybe take away features, something like that. That's my concern.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Iris's website, so they are a company that looks like they have lots of education in accountancies and HR and payroll, and offer a whole bunch of solutions to, they're touting some of these bigger companies that I'm not really familiar with. It'll be very interesting to see what comes out of it. A UK-based company. I don't know. Something down the line. The beauty is lately you and I have both seen that there have been lots and lots of great other receipt capture options coming out there. I mean, everyone's getting into the game, particularly with their own credit cards, Ramp and Brex and Relay got into it. But as far as receipt and invoice capture for the masses, that's where, obviously I love Keeper, but several practice management tools are doing this as well.
Yeah, and I never really liked Dext, so not going to impact me here.
I'll be honest, for the longest time, it was my favorite software and my least favorite customer support. So happy day when I got to drop that.
All right, moving on. We got a lot of news today. The next one, did you see the IRS? They announced the new mileage rate for 2025. Have you seen this? And if so, what do you think that is? It was 2024, 67 cents a mile.
I would say they threw a nickel at us, sent us to 72 cents.
Not quite a nickel, only 3 pennies up to 70 cents for 2025. So if you have those in your worksheets or your trackers, remember we need mileage logs, people. If you're going to try to take that as a tax deduction, need to update to 70 cents. And can I just say, I love that it's a round number. Like,
Me too.
Oh yeah, make the calculations easy.
We'll remember this for a year. This is going to be the number that, like, for the longest time, we just keep always saying it's 70 cents. Like, I still stay a postage stamp costs 32 cents. Because that's the number Carl Malone wore, and he was called a mailman. Yeah. So, you know, this is going to be the new number I'm pegged to right here. 70 cents mileage. I'm happy to hear it. Also, changing out there, I don't know if you saw this one, but Intuit, their checking account, their QuickBooks Cash, they finally dropped the interest rates. I knew quite a few QuickBooks Cash or QuickBooks checking lovers that touted them because they could earn some good interest on their money. They dropped it now from over 5% to what, Jeremy?
It was over 5. Rates have gone down. They're kind of greedy. 2.5.
You know what? We're going to round up for you.
Okay.
And go right to 3. Yes,
okay.
You are correct. 3%. And, you know, for those people that are like, oh, how dare they do this? Like, guys, every bank is doing this. You know, my favorite right now is Amex Savings for personal accounts because I think it's 3.4. Don't go chasing interest rates all the way down. If you find one that usually has a good one, stick with it, stay happy with it. Yes, you could change every so often, but, you know, just keep expecting all the banks are going to go up and down together. If you find a good one that right now is in the 3s, you're probably finding the best that's out there to the market.
How many of those Amex savings accounts do you have?
Why do you ask?
Because I know you. I have one for my car that I'm going to purchase in 10 years. I have one for... How many?
My poor wife.
Yeah.
I think I only have 5 right now.
Only.
Yeah, because there's the emergency fund, and that's like holding a solid 6 to 9 months of what we'd need to live. I think it's like 9 months right now of what we need to live. I actually have a house account that is holding 5 months of our mortgage, and it gets filled up every month. But I also know I've got that covered, so I probably actually have like a year in emergency savings. Dude, I'm like a squirrel. I will go hide up everywhere I can, and then I panic about money even though I have a year set away. We got the charitable account. I automatically do 10% of every paycheck, 10% of every profit distribution every week. Owner's distribution, 10% go there, and I just let that money pile up. I don't worry about being legalistic of giving 10% whenever that number gets up to 5-6 grand, and you know what? We'll distribute it when we want to distribute it. I was telling my wife we should just wait and distribute it every other year, so that way we can get on our Schedule A and like get 2 years in one tax year, right? Do everything on January 1st. What do we got in there else? We got a couple business accounts like the Vault and Tax Stash and the Profit Long-Term Hold. Yeah, we got. Actually, no, I don't think it's 5. I think it's 7.
I still like I make fun of you, but I have several as well. Probably not as many as you, but if you're not doing this, please do it, right? Well, you know you have these expenses. Even like if people like my real estate taxes, right? I just pay that off every month. It's $500-600 I throw away in an account, so I all know it's there. If you know you have these bills, auto insurance, all that, just set them up, get them out there, get some interest. Money's gone. You don't have to worry about it. That way, when the bill comes, you pull it back. It's paid for. Vamos.
I will say, every April, I still get surprised, like, oh yeah, we do have to pay life insurance again. Why haven't we set up a separate account for that one? But you know what? We'll get there. And then the emergency fund takes a hit for 2 months until we build it back up because we had to do that.
Oh, yeah, got to do it. So getting back to the pot stirrer, so you have an interesting situation with a client transition that I've seen you on the socials stirring the pot with everybody. And this is a great topic that I want to just at least talk about a little bit. Talk me through this. What's going on?
So really, like, you're already jumping the gun here because this episode, folks, I'm going to spill the beans real quick. Jeremy and I, we're deviating from our normal form today. We're doing a year-end review.
We're going to try to look healthy and fit.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Try and look. No, today we want to just do a little recap and review of the year. And, you know, I'm not opposed to you bringing this one up. It's a fresh wound. But you are probably referring to me posting about a current client transition where I have one of my better sized clients is leaving us for another firm that I believe the reason is they are cheaper than us. And ultimately the question I went out there to the world was, this client brought on a very high priced consultant to come in and help them with operations. And that consultant has led them to go with another firm other than us to save money. At least I believe that is the cause. They've never said that. I just believe that's the case. Now, that being said, I'm happy to be amicable. I hand them over, I gave the owner complete control of QuickBooks, complete control of Gusto. You and I agree on this. You never hold a client hostage. That's
No.
not cool. You don't hold their stuff and say, you can't leave. It's ours. You give them everything. So you give them QuickBooks, you give them Gusto. They're on Ramp. That's their Ramp subscription. We were never admins, but like they've got it. They own it. And then we have our internal stuff. You and I, we talk through all these softwares, our portals, our workflows, programs we've paid for to build out our workflows. And all that being said, my client said, hey, would you be willing to meet with a new firm and just kind of talk over them? Like, absolutely. Like, we put statistics on their financials. We did a lot of cool stuff. I will happily meet with them and just kind of give them, the philosophy, the theory on what we do. Yeah. And in that very first handover meeting, they requested several multi-hour training sessions, not training, they called them shadowing sessions with my staff, where they wanted to see how and we do everything. And to me, that felt like it crossed a line a little bit of like, no, like you guys should have your own process and procedures, but I'm happy to like tell you, here's what we were doing, here's allocations, here's this. But like, I'm not going to open up our entire tech stack. I've been meeting with Jesse and Tom to build out really cool stuff on how we can do assets in service and like, just tons of like custom automations that we've built out. And they seem rather almost appalled that I wasn't going to give them, like, walk them through everything in our firm and how we do stuff. Because you know me, we built a lot of automations, a lot of cool stuff. So to your point, I took it to the socials and just said, hey, am I missing something? Because these guys seem so flabbergasted that I am not going to train their staff. They didn't like the word train, but I'm not going to train their staff for several hours. And I don't know, what did you see between the three different communities you and I, well, I mean, LinkedIn was just on my LinkedIn profile, but like, what did you see? What was the consensus?
I mean, by far the consensus was, how does that other firm even ask for this? Right? That is what I got out of it too. And I don't think I've been asked quite to that level. Right? And I think I would do the exact same thing that you said, is like, if you have a calculation, if you have a statistic that's out there, here's what the inputs are for that. And they like that, right? Even like some working files, like their fixed asset schedule and prepaid schedules and all that stuff. Fantastic. Here you go.
All the reconciliations.
Yeah, here you go. But for them to ask you to come in and pretty much just show them how to do the accounting for that organization is ridiculous. And I can't even imagine asking that. Right? Like, I have met in similar things where we're taking things over and I'm like, I'd love all the background. And I even like getting background on the client. Like, oh, are they Uber responsive? Or, how have you seen that? So I even like that color. And some old providers are happy to give that. Some are not. But the fact to be like, give me your secret sauce so that I can do a good job with this client. No, like, we have to figure that out. You have to figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I drew the line. And to be honest, like, we got a lot of other people that chimed in that, were very aggressively, like, I would tell them to go pound sand or do other stuff, or I would like hold the boat hostage. And no, that's not my style. Like, I want to be friendly. I really want to see this client succeed. They are awesome and they have built something unique. The owner is he's one of the most fearless and just nice people I've ever met. I absolutely love it. This consultant they brought in, who was ultimately what led to us being let go, guy's smart. Like, the guy is one of the smartest people I've talked to. He is, some of the stuff he's putting in place, brilliant.
Present company excluded?
Oh, absolutely. Jeremy, you and I are not included in any company. The guy is smart. And so you're right, though. Like, this was a very interesting one. And I don't know, I hesitated to even let you goat me into bringing it up on here. But the one thing that really stuck out to me, and I think you and Kirsten and I have been talking behind the scenes, Cheryl, is I honestly, when I was the one person in the room saying like, no, I'm not going to hand over like all the stuff I've worked 4 years to build to make us efficient. Like, I will hand over, source stocks and everything else. I kind of felt gaslit, like that I was the crazy one, to the point where I went to our communities and said like, hey guys, am I missing something? Like, I was really second guessing myself. And every one of you, I mean, even seeing people like Veronica Wasek and all of our friends who are very successful in this place saying like, no, that's not normal, definitely helped. And so the community, the tribe, dude, it's huge. Because, just knowing that, like, okay, this is how other firms operate. Like, this is how our tribe operates. It was huge. It was helpful.
Yeah, and some of those behind the scenes conversations we had too, I could tell how emotionally taxing this was for you too, right? Just with how you were talking about it and your expressions and all that. So it's tough, honestly. But I think that the receiving organization is way off base, and there's no way you can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't.
Either way, I really hope this client succeeds. And to be honest, this was the one client of ours that I was still involved in on an intimate basis. Like I knew their books, I knew their financials. Financials didn't go out every month without me. This might be the blessing in disguise for my firm to go to the next level, because I am now officially out of every client set of books. My staff is running it without me. Guys, this could be the best thing that ever happened to me.
I'm sure it is too. I have not gotten there, so you beat me to that punch. I love it.
Well, you got to $1 million firm before me, so we'll figure it out.
Right.
Jeremy, beyond that, I wanted to start this episode. Again, we're going to deviate from our normal game show format. For those of you that, aren't familiar with our show, usually here's where we throw in a game, then we go halftime, couple more games. No, we want to do some year-end review stuff and just talk through what it's like growing a firm, the highs, the lows, the wins, what's coming up, and kind of how we've approached our firm. So if you love it, let us know. If you hate it, let us know, but please come back, or at least just download. You don't have to listen. We just need your downloads. But Jeremy, this first one, I wanted to put it to you, and feel free to offer it to me in a multiple choice to keep it slightly game show. Yeah. But what was your one biggest loss this year? What was the thing that you and I both subscribe to? They're only losses if you don't learn from them. But there's still losses in how they feel. Yeah. What was the big one for you this year?
So I think far and away our biggest one is we don't do tax filings or 990s for nonprofits. So I had been doing them, and then I'm like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And we found a local young lady here who started doing them for us probably 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago. And it just went poorly, and they weren't getting done well, and communication wasn't there. So hey, we have to move on. So I found this national firm that what they're specializing in is nonprofit compliance, right? They do some additional filings, but also do 1099s for nonprofits. And I hate this term, but a top to top meeting with this organization. So both of us owners, and talked through hey, we need a 990 partner. We would love it for you to be you guys. Can we go forward with this? And made it work and started. And we really got in bed with them. And it ended up, they just did not do a good job. We have had 3 or 4 clients come back and be I have my auditor came back and reviewed this, and my 990 is completely wrong. And I have always stressed with my clients, you will never take financial hardship because of us. So if there's a mistake, we will cover the costs. If there's a payroll error, we will fix it and cover that cost. So I am refunding them their money and trying to claw it back from this other organization. Ooh. But the communication wasn't there. The quality of work was not there. And it wasn't something that I vetted hard enough as a business owner to kind of throw everything their way that I should have. And it has strained some relationships, and it's been hard, and something we're learning for. And we weren't perfect in it either. We gave some pretty constructive feedback pretty off the cuff a couple times that strained the relationship for a little while. So just all in all, it wasn't a great situation. We have hence moved on to a much better tax preparer, I hope. But yeah, it was tough. And again, it's something where looking back on it, I needed to have vetted that option way, way, way more deeply before we move forward.
So, but honestly, this goes back to my philosophy on a lot of things. Honestly, we'll get into my loss, and this ties in. But as you said, you jumped into bed with them way too early. How do you go about when you have a firm, you're trying to find partners to help you, and how do you properly do that courtship to get to know the potential partner, vet them a little bit more, go steady before saying I do and giving them all your clients? How do you get into that without also keeping your workflows in 2 places and now your SOL? This is the hardest part, I think, of growing a firm, is you're going to put your trust in people that are going to make you look awful. So I ask you, what would you do differently doing it all again?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And I thought, honestly, at talking with the CEO of this group, and we discussed a lot of the in-depth things, and even they created a process, because we were the first firm like this that hey, we want a partnership with you and you can do all of ours, versus the nonprofits going to them individually. So we even got a process together, and that part went smooth. And so I really think it would have came down to should have sent them 1, 2, or 3 of them, and then really dug in and looked at it and reviewed the work myself, and just had a little bit more diligence there before I was yep, and announcing it to all of our clients. Here's our new partner, go with them.
That's hard. I've had 1 or 2 tax preparers I've tried to court before, back before we were doing taxes. And I would introduce one client to them and get on that first call, and it was just apparent this was going to be awful. Why did I even let my client in front of them? It's hard when you put your name on the line saying, hey, here's an option. It almost makes me want to never recommend anything, because I'd rather my client find someone on the internet and let's vet them together than me say, hey, here's an option I think that's good. Oh, nope,
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Right. And it reflects poorly on you. And that sucks. But yeah, that was mine. What about you? What do you think your biggest loss this year?
Oh, okay. I'm going to make you guess. Was my biggest loss 30 pounds? Was it a business partner, my sanity,
Ooh.
or 4 clients in the month of December?
Ooh. Till you threw that last one out there, I think I knew it. But you and I talked, I think it was pretty early this year. I'm going to have to think the partner. That was tough.
Yeah, so, let's get into it. I mean, hopefully this isn't too much of Tyler and Jeremy bare their soul episode. But honestly, that was a hard one early this year, and that was January. So, man, I hit my low point early. But no, me and a business, a couple of years ago, almost 2 years ago now, I brought in a business partner that basically said, hey, let's grow this monster together. Love the guy. He and I worked together back in the corporate world. He was honestly my boss back in the day, and I really looked up to this guy, and he took a chance coming here. He probably could have gotten a much better salary, a much better thing, but he wanted to come grow this sucker with me, and it just didn't work. It's not that he's not a good guy. It just didn't work. What we needed out of his position, out of my position, communication, working together, what he needed out of it financially to make it work versus what we were growing, the rate we were growing at. It wasn't there to the point where we had to look at each other and I said, hey, I don't think this is, I don't think you're going to be happy here. He looked at the number and said, yeah, I'm going to need more out of this. How do I get more equity? And I said, I'm not willing to give more. That's kind of the deal. And it fell apart. And it's one of those things, I think you and I both know this, but I was so hungry for a business partner because you aren't aware how lonely it is at the top of a company. Even as small as ours, it's lonely.
Very.
Right? And so I was so eager to have someone else there with me that I think I was trying to force a partnership where it didn't need to happen. Now I know I've got friends and, if not, I'll go find a therapist or someone to talk to, that it doesn't have to be that. But gosh, I go back to the tribe. You need the tribe to grow this thing because it's stressful. And I mean, you and I have both done this. I mean, I went from 0 to 17 employees in the course of 3 years. I was not ready for what that was, but I'd say that was my lowest point of the year. I don't know. Questions?
Forced partnerships. Isn't that where Me Too came from? We don't want to do that. Oh, okay.
Jeremy always providing value.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that had to be, and I don't want to divert from the story, but quick background. I tried to do the same thing with an individual that I worked with before, who is amazing, a super smart accountant, and builds relationships with people immediately. And I'm like, I know that I can go way farther and faster with us two together at that, and I kind of tried to do the same thing. And it just wasn't the right fit with her. And she came back to me finally after I pitched it, and she said about it. She's like, I seriously cried to my grandmother the other day is because I feel like I'm not ready for this and it's too much stress, but I don't want to let you down. And I'm like, I don't want you crying at all. If it's not the right fit, just say that. But it was the same thing where it's trying to make it fit. And this life is hard, right? And you say it's lonely at the top. It is lonely at the top. And you want oh God, share this with me and all that. So yeah, I totally feel you. I'm glad I didn't go down that road. So my question is now, do you think you will ever try to go down that road again?
Man, it would take a lot. Honestly, no. I mean, first of all, yes, it's lonely at the top. And then it's also it's scary to think I've only climbed this rock wall of growing a business this high so far. And there are companies that are much higher. So my fear of heights has got to kick in the higher I climb. I mean, if it's already getting to me at this level. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of growth, but at the same point, I've been able to hire people that can fill the needs of the places I don't excel. And there's not this whole who gets what happens. It's much easier to grow it this way. So it would have to be some sort of partnership that really gives me something that I don't have. And I'm not sure what that is. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm going down that route again. The one thing I will say, folks, is our contract was genius. And I give this all back to Uncle Ben Robinson, who started and has since retired from Bookkeepers Launch. But he and I were talking about how do you structure a partnership deal, bringing someone in after you've already built the company. And he saved my bacon because the deal was all, hey, if we grow to a certain amount of revenue and monthly recurring revenue, my partner was going to get 5%. And then at this next milestone, we were going to get another 5. And then at this milestone, another 5. And so this was going to be the way that they could earn their way into equity without me having to give it away. I've heard of other people that just say, well, your partner now, here's 50%. and
Yeah.
like try getting that back. Your company, it's awful. So instead, my contract was based in ways that he earned equity, maxing out at 25%. And, you know, there was certain had to perform, had to be able to work. If he got fired or if he quit, I could either buy back my shares or like there was all these repercussions that really made it easy. And talk to someone who's done this before, because I think that saved me outright from like really having to try and fight to claw back my company, because we both looked and said we're not hitting the milestones for him to get equity. Like that's a problem. So it was great. Honestly, one of the best things I ever did, but I'm not sure I'm going to go down the partnership route ever again with this business.
Sure. And we know the unaccountable business, you had bad selection of partner too. So I also think like, not that we have a huge tribe, right? But I haven't heard a single positive partnership story from anyone. Like have you? I don't recall.
I know of one or two.
Okay. And maybe I'm not recalling those, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do this if this is where you need to be as a person. But first of all, do exactly what Tyler said, is make it structured with all the legal language, and then just be sure you're ready to take that leap.
Date before you get married, guys. Don't just tie the knot. Court each other. Get them involved. Get them working. Pay them as an employee for a bit. Make sure everyone's on board. That's my biggest takeaway from all of this.
Hey, Tyler, my staff has asked me to get better knowledge and training in spreadsheets and Excel. Any ideas?
Well, yeah, dude, I'm a little offended. You go to tylerauto.com, we have a course on intermediate Excel formulas. Just have them go over there and use the promo code Unaccountable for 50% off.
Nice. Gonna do that. Thank you, sir.
And with that sound, we're at halftime, although we haven't played a game yet, so I'm not sure what it's halftime of, rather than maybe our sob stories. But Jeremy, we were racking our brain, our singular brain. You like that? There was no S in there. Our singular brain as to what to talk about this week. And you put it back on me that we should talk about Keeper some more. Why is that?
So what I've heard is there's some new tax functionality out there, and I have no desire to dig into this because we know my affliction towards taxes, but you seemed excited. I'm sure a lot of our listeners that are Keeper fanboys or girls as well are probably excited. What's going on? Give us the lowdown.
Okay. So for those that aren't aware, in the last week or so here in December, this is going to air on January 2nd. So last month, y'all, Keeper released a new feature called tax workflows. They're getting into the tax space. I mean, Jeremy, how much have we seen this that every single platform is starting to get in everyone else's space? That's what they're all doing. And Keeper is trying to defend their turf, and they're getting in on taxes, and it operates and feels a lot like Keeper's monthly bookkeeping workflows, except it's built for tax returns. Now, some of the cool stuff I've already loved and seen is the price. Okay, first and foremost, I keep on going back to this, but Keeper's pricing makes it so easy for what I respectfully call the baby bookkeeper to get started on a tech stack. Some of these platforms, it's just way outside of their price range to get started, where Keeper says, no, we won't charge you a penny until you have a connected client. And then you only pay us when you make money. Like, it's brilliant in that regard. I absolutely love it. Well, Keeper now is making their tax workflows free for any accounting firm that has 20 or more connected clients. So whether that's on the bookkeeping side or on the taxes side. Now, I'm going to pull up on my screen, actually, if you're up for it.
Ooh,
and I will show you. Yeah.
We're going on a field trip. I love it.
We are. So what I will say, and for everyone's information, yes, I reach out to Ben and Kenny a lot, and I've been playing in this beta for probably a month and a half or so. So I've nitpicked a lot of this already. But I mean, it looks and feels already just like your normal Keeper month end close, except you got some cool things now, like organizers. And these organizers, if you go into them, you can set up questionnaires much like you do in, Content Snare or anywhere else that they can go through and fill out. You can even set up templated ones. And so if you have a template, if you have others, you can have, 1040 organizers, and this is what the client sees. Hello, welcome. Give us your information. Do you have kids? Great. You can even come in and say, if your spouse died, if applicable. If you have kids, you can have it repeat certain number of times, although for some reason I'm struggling to find that question. But they want to make it nice and pretty on the client. And I mean, this is attractive, like from the preview standpoint, and you can set up any sort of organizers. The one thing I loved about this is someone in the Keeper community instantly said, I don't do taxes, but wouldn't it be great if this worked for onboarding? And that's exactly what they built it for. Like, you could use this as onboarding questionnaires. They don't have to be just tax organizers. This is going to be one of those features that they are incrementally adding cool new stuff every week. But gosh, when this gets fully fledged built, it's going to be amazing.
Questions.
Hit me.
First of all, I would like to celebrate a win here because almost unbeknownst to me, we are using Keeper as our onboarding software. Took everything from Content Snare, moved it over, and I'm like, why can't I find any of this stuff for this client Content Snare? And someone's like, Jeremy, we moved all that stuff to Keeper. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I love that I didn't remember and all that, right? It's fantastic. Have a team. They're doing all the things.
That's an owner win right there.
Oh, 100%. But the workflows that you have out there, you built all of those. Or is there like just generic templates already that they have?
So yes to both. So Keeper built out an initial, like, here's the month end workflow. Here's the month end or the year end workflow. So, client details just like they've got in the past, but they've also got gather information. And here's, a basic template.
Yeah.
Here's your financial walkthrough. But you can go through and set up your own templates to be whatever you want for your new tax clients. So they have some built in here. And same thing if we go to organizers, they have one that comes default. And then they also have other ones that you can create. And that's what we've done at our firm. Like right now, we're doing year-end tax calculations for clients that want to pay us a couple $100 to tell them, hey, where are you going to finish the year? Well, we can ask them a few questions. You tell us exactly what's going on here. And then we will, hopefully I didn't just delete something.
Sorry, client.
We will go through. Yeah, I know, right? We'll go through and give you an estimation of where you're going to finish the year. And if we think we can save you money with some tax planning, we'll come back with that as well. So, yep, you can go through and add templates all day long. They've got a few built out. Although, knowing Ben and Kenny, they probably want to get this library super robust just from day one for their clients coming up.
Yeah, and that's awesome, right? Like, I don't think I've ever gotten anything out of the box that's perfect. But even if they give you something out of the box that intelligent people have put some thought into, that's fantastic, right? Like, hey, this isn't perfect for me, but I like that, but I want to change this, and let's change this order because that makes more sense for us. So that's pretty cool. Generally, you seem like you have positive feedback overall, right? Yeah. Okay.
Positive feedback, and I'm impressed not only with like what's here, but they've been making improvements. Like one of the most important things, there were certain workflows that weren't working right, or you click on certain buttons, things just didn't show up how they want. They've already fixed all of those, and then I've started giving feedback like e-signatures and KBAs, which they have on their radar. I'm optimistic they'll have it at some point. This is not me reporting anything they've said, but I'm optimistic that will be there as functional. But then you could do entire bookkeeping and tax prep in one place for clients, not tax preparation and filing, but like manage the workflow. I also know that they're hoping to make it very easy to see the status on all these clients. Like they've just got some cool stuff in the works. I don't know. Like my wife's a huge believer in the investing strategy by Phil Town. Rule 1, where rule 1 is don't lose money. And one of the rules of finding a good company to invest in is, does it have a leader that you believe in? Does it have, someone at the top that you actually subscribe, they're going to do great things? And I take that same approach when I pick a software that I want to put into my company. Do I believe in the leader? I believe in the leaders of Keeper. So I would say, yeah, you could bet on this.
Yeah, and I like the e-signature thing comes if you can put your whole proposal in there and then the services they select, and you could theoretically model some of your workflow templates off. Yeah.
Although I will say, I don't know if I'm ever going to do my proposals in there because, gosh, Anchor is beautiful. We just switched there.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. I just can't wait to get all my clients over. But yeah, I'm a huge fan. Better than what I was doing with CPA Charge before. I love CPA Charge. Dirt cheap rates, but so much manual data entry to get it to reconcile versus this. Oh, seamless. Love it.
Nice.
And I'll let me say, I know you bugged me about a few other things. Keeper's got some other cool stuff in the pipeline. Like, get stoked. It's going to be rad.
We might have to have another Ben visit in the new year. I think we should.
I think we might. There's something that's in beta that he hasn't given me permission to talk about, but it's going to be good. I can't wait. So, Jeremy, back to the games, though, or at least planned sessions. We left everyone in a downer right before we started talking about my love for Keeper. But let's also talk about the wins for this year. Dare I ask you, what was the biggest win for nonprofitbookkeeping.com?
I mean, I feel like you could have so many of these, and I'm poor like you are, not going to try to put together a multiple choice list. But I mean, like so many things that were, you talk about Keeper, and like every week they give you an update of like, even if it's just bug fixes or here things we're working on, like you could say that for your own firm, right? Is like, hey, here, and we are big proponents of the traction. So like we have our rocks that we're working through and projects that always the leaders are working on. So I could have picked any of those, but the one I'm going to go with is finally hired a HR person, right? And that has been game changing for us in several ways. Is first of all, like I don't have to be involved in the hiring process until it's the third interview or final interview and the decision making process. Everything else is taken care of. Also, like I'm a really good accountant, or at least was, and now I have good accountants that work for me. But like we are now in probably 15 states registered, and just the things that you need to do in each of them. And I will honestly say I did not do all of them perfect. And the first 6 weeks of her job, and still spatterings now, is like figure out what Jeremy did wrong, why this report isn't showing up, or we're not registered this right way or whatnot, and correct those things. And then even to like, we are now at a place with our firm that we need, and this pains me, and I talk to my team about this all the time. We had a call this morning where I said these are coming, but just better overall CYA policies, right?
Ooh, yeah.
All the things, right? Like non-discrimination, non-disclosure, travel policy. Like there's probably 10 where it's like, hey, we need to start these and put them in place. And I totally give the caveat, like these will go in force and like something we need to follow. But please talk to me or your manager if you have concerns with anything. I'm going to be a gracious business owner like I've always been, but I need these in place just to cover our butts to make sure we don't do something bad or get in trouble with any kind of client or legal thing that could just blow up the whole company. So I think a lot of those things have been needed for a while. And these are hard because you're investing in non-revenue generating team members, but it's been good. The person we hired is fantastic and really looking forward to seeing that role just grow.
Honestly, that's always the hardest part when you add a team member that isn't directly tied to revenue. Like we've got a couple on our team now, and especially as I become less and less tied to revenue as well, now that I'm out of all the clients, that's stressful. That's hard.
It is. And the other thing too is I try to, like I told this when I hired her, is like, I'm going to try to use you in all the ways and all the business good ways. But for example, she put together an expense policy for us. I'm like, I have a client that has asked us to put together an expense policy. Here's what they use. Here's what I'm thinking. Take ours, at least get it 80% of the way there that I can get it to them and start talking about it. So how do we use her HR experience to also give a better experience to our clients? So just pulling those levers too when they're available.
I mean, Jeremy, you're the only person I know that says I'm going to use you every way I can and doesn't get, sued as an employer. Proud of you, Jeremy. You're living the dream.
Maybe my HR person isn't doing their job then.
The fact you're still employed is the fact that they need to do better.
All right. What about you? What do you think? So we talked about the Debbie Downers. What has your successes been this year?
The Ursula Uppers. I don't know.
I love it.
Why is Ursula the only U name? Is there any other U woman's name that I could use?
Uma Uppers?
Uma Thurman? Uma Uppers does work better.
Yeah, it does.
That being said, I think the biggest win for us is honestly kind of twofold. Back in July, hired a salesperson and promoted one of my team members to director of client accounting services. She oversees all the bookkeeping side of our business so that I can go fart around building out our tax set and running this dang thing. Now, those two hires have been a long time coming to see success. Jeremy, you know this. Hiring a salesperson that can learn your company and do all that does not profit right away. But in November, all of a sudden, we started to make money off of this new person. It's like it's finally paying off. My head of ops is now overseeing all of it. And the biggest win is they were talking to me in November and they said, oh, we need to deal with client X. And I'm like, who the heck is client X? And they're like, client X, they're onboarding. I'm like, no. And they're like, oh yeah, it's a new client we onboarded last month and they're doing great. I'm like, do I need to do anything? No, we got it. We're cool. And I now have one client in my company, Jeremy. I could not tell you where they're from, like where they're located, Do we deal with a husband and wife team? Do we deal with a business owner? Do we deal with a man? I have no idea. I know nothing about this client, which is terrifying. And also the only way we're ever going to grow. Like if we ever want to quadruple in size, there is no way I can know what every client is on our books. And so I view it as the biggest, most awesome and terrifying win I have ever experienced is having a client that I know nothing about.
And that's huge though. Like I remember those days, or like the first time, and I was like, wait, who are we talking about here? I had the same kind of realization that you did. I'm like, wow, I didn't do anything. And like everything's there. That's amazing. Yeah.
This company could run without me. And honestly, this company could easily run without me. My staff is smart enough. The problem is everything was put in place early on by me just hustling and saying yes to everything. So now we have a bunch of work that is only here because I said yes to dumb things. And like, how do we transition to that to the staff? Gosh, one day this company is going to be great to own.
I love it. We actually just came up with our 8-year anniversary being in business last week, I think. And
twice as old as me. And in business life.
Come on, man. But I put the date out there and I'm like, I'm not sure if this is my work anniversary because one, I didn't pay myself for quite a while, and it was even longer before I was a W-2 employee of the organization. But the organization was started, 8 years today or whatever. And my HR person immediately said in their Slack channel, no, you are incorrect. That would be tomorrow. I was ready for this. And so my response to that was, yep, I'm still effing stuff up after 8 years here. And I just got my Christmas present from the team today, and they made me a shirt that said, still effing stuff up after 8 years, and had a face palm thing on it, and it was fantastic. But
that is brilliant.
It is. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think the big wins for our company going forward are when they can get rid of the incompetence at the top, which when we write our first book, that will be the title.
Oh, we do need unaccountable. What? Yes, that's the subtitle of that. Unaccountable. Incompetence at the top.
Incompetence at the top. Jeremy, for our last little game then, I want us to stop looking backwards and I want to look forward. What's up this year? Like, I want to do this in 2 parts, and you tell me what you want to hit first. But what do you think is going to change in our industry? What do we think our firms need to be ready for? And then what change are you looking forward to, or you're seeing in your crystal ball for this year for your firm in particular? So I want you to hit me with both industry and your firm.
Oh, I'm really bad at this. Industry-wise, I think like it is going to be even more important that you have a differentiated identity and lean into it, right? I think with all of the software and the AI and everything out there, the only thing that's going to really make you differentiated from your competition is your culture and how you are delivering to your clients and the relationships you're building. So I know that's not news to anyone, or maybe not an aha moment for anything, but I just think like the tools are going to be there and smart people are going to go use them. How do you differentiate yourself through service and relationships? I think that's got to be number one for me. I think that's it. But then crystal ball for us, I would love to hit the 2 million mark before you hit the 1 million mark. That would be. I don't know. I think we talked about putting together like a nonprofit bookkeeping course. It's going to teach like the fundamentals of nonprofit accounting and get that out to the places and kind of market that as a low cost option to good bookkeeping practices and things. But yeah, outside of that, I think it's just continuing to get me out of the things as well. We talked about competence at the top. I need to be further out of things. I think we're taking baby steps. We need to take some teenage steps perhaps to continue that process. But yeah, I think that's what I'm really looking forward to and continuing that path.
I like it. Honestly, that's brilliant. Like, I think you're right on the niching part. Like, it's going to be more and more important. How many times do you meet with a client and they're like, oh, you know my space, and they are just so excited about it. I absolutely love that. The one thing I will say, for those of you that haven't read it, there is a great book called The Gap in the Gain. Jeremy, are you familiar with it?
I am. Yeah, I did audiobook it, but yes, it was fantastic. Who's the author again? That guy's ridiculously smart.
Dan Sullivan.
Yes.
And I bring this up because I think anyone who is in here and playing the comparison game, they're hearing, look at Jeremy and Tyler. Like, they have a combined half a brain cell, and they were able to grow their firm to a certain size, and you're feeling like you're behind or whatnot. You're not. read this book because it's so easy to compare yourself to the horizon line that you're never going to get close to. You got to look back and compare yourself to the starting point. I fall into this trap all the time. And so, yeah, to your second point of growing your firm, I think being able to live within the gain, like, huge win for any organization. I know it's what we've had to do in ours because it doesn't feel like progress until we look back on what we've done.
Oh yeah, 100%. And also that just applies personally, right? Like we talk about trying to build this business while maintaining a family, and we both very much prioritize that over as all the things as much as we can, right? Yep. But to take those same gap versus gain concepts and apply that to your daily family lives as well, there's a big part of that in the book too that is totally worth it. And I need to re-listen to that over the break here, because I think that would help me a lot coming in 25. So now, what about you? What are yours?
What about me? Okay.
I showed you mine. Show me yours.
Well, I mean, industry-wide,
yeah.
I mean, this is not a hot take, right? Like, AI is going to come in and advisory services are the future. But I think who can marry that and make it as easy on accountants as possible to implement some of these tools? I think still one of the biggest pain points a lot of our clients have is cash flow management, right? Like that, getting in there in the month and know what's going on. Yep. I attended sessions at Intuit Connect. I've seen webinars of people touting it, and everyone has a glorified Google sheet that they say, this is the way to do it. And then I've seen softwares out there that are cool. I'm not going to name them by names because I love some of those people, but like the prices they're charging for forecasting softwares that just aren't great, but they can get down to the daily and weekly level. Yeah. It's nothing's there yet. But someone is going to crack that low cost, simple advisory services, particularly around the cash flow management. What QuickBooks Planner tried to do before they sunsetted it. Someone's going to figure that out. And I think we're all going to flock to it like crazy, but it's got to be cheap. Like compared to, I know of an option out there that's like $500 a month connected. Oof. Someone's going to figure it out this year and be like $20 a month a client. And we're all going to be like, yes, please. Until it's functional, I don't know. Within my firm, honestly, the biggest thing I'm looking forward to, it's I'm going to get me some letters. I'm going to get me 3 little letters who sit behind my name. For those of you who don't know, I was 4 classes short of sitting for the, go ahead.
I was going to suggest some letters, ASS. No, go on.
I already have that degree. Yeah. So no, I want those 3 letters. Yep. And I was 4 classes short just because I was poor in my 20s. I don't want to pay for more classes. I was never going to sit for the CPA then. But now I don't really need my CPA for anything, Jeremy. Like I already do taxes and I do them well. I do a lot of things well, actually. CPA is not going to change that. But you know what it does let me do?
What?
Include those letters on all my marketing material, all over my website, all over my LinkedIn, everything I talk about. I am going to go from the guy that says, what do you need a CPA for, to, hey, you should hire a CPA because now I have one. But honestly, I know that clients are looking for those letters because they believe it implies a level of trust and competence that you and I know is not a corollary. And then on top of that, employees want to work somewhere where they can get their CPA because they believe that's going to improve their odds of getting great employment in the future. And you got to work for a CPA for a year before you can sign off on getting your CPA. Yeah. So for all those reasons, I'm getting it not because of the education. I'm getting on it because I want the marketing materials and the HR benefits.
I like it. And first of all, like you have to give kudos to the AI CPA that they have marketed this so well, right? Because I know there are brilliant CPAs. I know I was just talking about one today that are garbage, really, with just what they know and the services they're providing. But you're right. And I think that is a differentiating thing. I've had calls with people and they've asked that and immediately, oh, you're not a CPA? I can't go forward then. And I ask why or whatever, but it's fine. And I get back to like, you need to lean into what you want to lean into, right? I like the fact that we're not CPAs and I'm never going to be, and I don't aspire to be, but we will do great transactional bookkeeping, even some of the CFO level stuff for you. Without that, we work with nonprofits. They all need audits anyway, 90% of them. So we have that, but I think it's right, especially almost in the for-profit world, it's more beneficial, in my opinion, and I'm not there, but that you have it because it gets beaten into them that you should have a CPA involved with your firm at some level, at some point, if you want trusted numbers and good guidance. So I think, yeah, good.
I think of a prospect we were talking to at a conference, and they're just like, okay, so you guys will do my bookkeeping, but then who does my CPA? I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, we can do your taxes too. And he goes, oh, cool. Okay, so you'll do my bookkeeping, and then you guys can just do the taxes as well. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, so then who does my CPA? And I'm like,
it's not a task.
What do you need a CPA for? Or like, what is that CPA doing for you? It was like, well, the CPA does that stuff. What stuff? And they're just convinced they need a CPA. They don't even know what a CPA does. Yeah. They're just like, who does my CPA? Yeah. So all that being said, perception is reality. I'm a big believer on that. Yes, no, you can't just like believe things into existence. But if that's what someone believes, you've got to counteract that belief before you can educate them. And that's where I'm leaning into it, man.
I am now thinking we need to have like a graduate party, like a CPA party when Tyler gets a CPA. Ooh, either physically or a big Zoom call of just shenanigans. Yeah, physically would be better.
We'll get it done in person.
Yeah.
Well, Jeremy, real quick.
All right, and that gets us to our winner of the week. And I've lived this, right? And you guys are probably sick of hearing it already, but I'm going to go nonprofits are the winners. I don't know if you saw this article. Who's Mackenzie Scott?
I feel like I should know that name, but maybe I shouldn't.
Care to venture a guess?
The way that you're baiting me, it's probably like some social media star that got famous for doing something dumb, and it's probably a good thing I don't know this.
That would be the ex-Mrs. Jeffrey Bezos.
Oh, okay, never mind. I'm good with that.
Yeah. She has, they split up. She took her half of the Amazon billions and has been like a moving figure in the nonprofit world. Announced to the world this past week that she made another $2 billion of donations to nonprofits in 2024, bringing her total since 2019 to $19.2 billion she's given away. So just amazing that this happened. There's repeat gifts in here. There's some amazing organizations, and she's really focusing on economic security and opportunities for those that need it, etc. But yeah, just cool that it's there and she's doing it. However, she is that one person that I would love to make that connection with in the nonprofit world that I feel like could just be incredibly amazing. I know we have 4 listeners. One of you 4 has to know Mackenzie Scott and can introduce me or slip a name or something, please.
This is the episode where we start tagging on LinkedIn, and she gets mentioned in this episode and tagged all over that.
Yeah,
so
it's like
Jeremy can plead.
6 degrees from Kevin Bacon, someone 6 degrees from Mackenzie Scott that can hook me up. But my question to you is, who do you know of somebody in your industry that you think, like, if I could make a connection to this person, that would be groundbreaking for me and our trajectory?
With the amount of time we have left, I'm going to pass until next week because that is a tough one. Jeremy, what about a loser for the week?
Loser of the week. Have you heard of this, the BAD conference?
I saw the acronym, saw it, and I was like, I don't have enough time to look into this. But please go on.
And this is probably obscure, but it's the Business and Accounting Department of the College of Idaho, a neighbor to Utah, I'm told, where they have their annual Business and Accounting Department conference and call it the BAD Conference. And just coming out of our show with Kate, I was like, why would you name it that? But maybe it's like deceivingly brilliant.
No, I mean, it gets attention, right? Like 2 jokers on an accounting themed podcast are talking about it. Way to go, BAD Conference. If only we would have had that one last week.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like it.
Well, Jeremy, this is airing on January 2nd. So for everyone, best of luck with 1099 season. It is the season to start making some changes. I'm a big believer that it's always good to have a New Year's resolution. So join us in the Facebook group. Feel free to drop yours in there and what you want to see and change in your firm this year. We'd love to see it. Otherwise, leave us a backhanded 5-star review telling us barely the redeeming qualities. But everyone else, hope you had some great holidays. And Jeremy, we'll talk to you soon, sir.
Prospero año.
Felicidad. That went longer than I thought it would.
That's what she said. Yes, it did.